really bright lights here, and yes, there will be. Okay, I'm sorry.
Shut up at the bar back there.
Right here, sir. Reminds me of a story that I heard Al Gore tell. It was about 30 minutes long, if you don't mind. Thank you all for coming. Very kind of you to come. I appreciate this. This is humbling. It's the first time I've done something for me. It's always somebody else who's doing the event is for, or some other good cause. So in my case, it's neither somebody important nor a good cause. It's just funding my old age. The book is supposed to be amusing. If you're not amused every page or so, then I'm not doing my job. If you're not laughing out loud from time to time. There's a certain person who's actually in the room who I consider to be a very good person, but he used the word hilarious. I won't out him right now, but and I respect his opinion. I respect his opinion more than most people in this town, actually. More than most people. No, everybody respects his opinion more than anybody else in this town. So for him to say hilarious was quite a stunning thing. So anyway, I have confidence in telling you you're going to be freaking amused by this thing. It's one advance trip, and for any of you who've done advance, I try to capture that atmosphere, that environment of one adventure, and because most advance trips are. And I don't know, reading seems a little odd. And I would tell you, when I was sitting in my basement...
Remember the audience you're talking to.
Act it out.
Yeah, he could have assigned the roles.
When I was sitting in my basement writing this thing, this is written to be read. It's really not written to be spoken unless Steven Spielberg buys the rights, in which case he can speak it all he wants.
We're working on it.
And it's very surprisingly dialogue heavy. So hopefully it'll be ready for film rights if anybody has any ideas along those lines. The lead guy is named Bix because in 1978 the first trip I ever did for Vice President Mondale was to Davenport, Iowa. And I used a ballroom where they were also holding the Bix Beiderbecke Film Festival, Jazz Festival, excuse me. And it was called the Coliseum Ballroom. I learned how to shrink a room on that trip because it was for Vice President Mondale. I'm outside bringing people in, saying we've got hot dogs inside, please come on in. Every trick I knew to use, I used at that. But I was studying jazz history in college at the time, and we were hitting jazz, great Bix Beiderbecke, and I thought, what a great name. And then years later, in 2004, 2008, when even the freaking fetuses are calling me Jacques, just Jacques. No respect. I thought, I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be Bix. So that's where that comes from. I'll read a couple paragraphs. I'm not sure that we've got...
It is where
You guys got to pick that.
Yeah, you were supposed to make that out ahead of time.
The morning that he gets up, it goes from the end of one advance trip and then through an entire another advance trip. So the morning he's getting up to have his event day, and it's set at the end of January of 2008. So everybody knows we're in New Hampshire. And Bix is the senior national lead advance for a certain African-American candidate for president.
That's fiction.
Change the names to... That's
A long time before, up until about 5 hours earlier that morning. Bix had clung to the hope of a better tomorrow. The future he envisioned involved having the next day off after more than a month of no sleep and bad fast food. I used the word vittles there, and my publisher thought that was too fancy a word. Bad vittles. A week earlier, the director of advance had personally promised Bix he could take a day off on primary day to rest and recreate. But soon after he got out of bed that morning, Bix already knew that his dream of 8 hours sleep, a civilized brunch, then an afternoon nap followed by a trip to the laundromat would remain just that, an exotic, unachievable dream. He even had a book that he planned to read at the laundromat, a 3-pounder by Robert Caro that he had been toting around for months, Master of the Senate. In retrospect, he realized he was only deluding himself. The day started normally. He woke up exhausted. Even then, one spark of optimism still smoldered under the rubble of his ravaged countenance. The prospect of 24 hours R&R, beginning immediately after the day's events ended, remained very real. He should have guessed that his last grain of hope would soon be stolen, along with what was left of his innocence, which wasn't much. Nothing surprised him anymore, but he never ceased to be amazed. He was only moderately amazed to find, just after he was jounced out of a short night's sleep, a voicemail on his phone from Egan, the boss, asking him to call as soon as the rally ended because there are rumors circulating that might have some negative impact. We're going to need you in South Carolina pretty soon. In a profession where nothing is more brutally evident than the adage, no one is indispensable, he knew he was about to get the "you're indispensable" speech from a guy who wasn't old enough to know better. But Vic should have known better, but it was one of those valuable lessons that he had to relearn at length. In advance, the promise of a day off isn't really so much of a way to get so much as a way to get someone off your back. He knew he'd have to wait a little longer or forever before getting a day off for good behavior. The waxen image looking back, I love this one, because I thought of it on the road when I was looking in the mirror. The waxen image looking back at Bix in the mirror that morning reminded him of a statue he'd seen of Charles de Gaulle and Madame Tussauds after a fire. He thought of the first rule of advance. Advance men are supposed to be invisible, and it seemed like a good day to make a special effort in that regard, lest he frighten the volunteers.